Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the AMA podcast. My name is Matt Ruddick, your host. As always, we have a very special bonus episode today. We've got Tyler Dobbs here back in the studio. Tyler, we've got a few more updates we want to share with our membership and with the hobby at large. So I want to thank you for being here again today.
No, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
As busy as your schedule is, it's tough to get you in, but we're really glad that you're here. So I think the first things first, we want to talk about something that's that you guys have been working on behind the scenes for the last, few weeks to months, I guess. There's a coalition that you guys have formed. Talk to me a little bit about that coalition, kind of detail what it is.
Sure. So it all started with this notice of proposed rulemaking that came out from the FAA back in December. And we saw so many issues with this proposed rule that we knew that we were going to have to get others in the hobby involved in reaching out and really putting forward a united front. So we reached out to manufacturers and hobby shops and other like-minded organizations and kind of gauge their interest if they would like to form a coalition and try to tackle this thing as one force. So that's what we did. We had a manufacturers meeting last Thursday, had a great turnout for that, where we went over the proposed rule and how that would affect companies and some of the requirements that are outlined in that proposed rule. And that was really the kickoff for this coalition. So over the next few days and few weeks, you'll be seeing that roll out here from AMA headquarters, and you can take a look at all the organizations that's involved. But great turnout so far. I think the last I checked, we were at a dozen, maybe 15 organizations, and we're in talks with a number of others. So I look for that to grow.
Yeah.
I think it's great because now, we can go forward. When we go to D.C. and we go to FAA meetings, we can speak on behalf of our 200,000 AMA members. We can also speak on behalf of however many organizations end up joining this coalition. So we're at a time where, it's important to have that backing and important to have those numbers. So we encourage everybody to put forward a united front on this.
Well, and that's the thing. It's so important, and I know we've talked about this before, about having that united front, coming at this with one voice, with the segmentation that seems to happen whenever these types of issues come up is only detrimental to the outcome of to the final outcome that we're looking for.
It is. It's unfortunate. Whenever there's any issue regarding the FAA or legislation, we kind of hear this blame game over and over, and that's unfortunate. That's the time where we need to be united and put forward, the same messaging. I'm in D.C. about every other week. I travel there at least a week a month, and usually I'm there at 2, if not more. I have a regular meeting with the FAA every Thursday. I'm on Capitol Hill, like I mentioned, about every other week, meeting with congressional offices and giving them updates. Those need to be the focuses. Getting what's wrong, getting the message to those offices in D.C., getting the message to the FAA, not complaining about what organization is doing what on the internet. It's great to rally people up. That's important, and to get them to submit comments and make their voices heard. But all that noise and all that negativity out there, that's not helping this process at all. So I would encourage everybody to take that focus. Send that energy to Congress, send it to the FAA, send it through public comment, let people know what's wrong with this proposed rule, and let's try to get it changed.
Absolutely. Now, as you mentioned, you're going to be going to Washington next week.
I am.
Talk a little bit about that trip. What's on the agenda for that?
So it really got started. The Senate Commerce Committee, the subcommittee on aviation, they're in charge of FAA oversight on the Senate side. They reached out to AMA and wanted our comments. We work with that office and meet with that office on a regular basis. So that's one of our purposes for this trip. We'll be meeting with a number of congressional offices, but we're going to submit what we would like to see, the changes we would like to see in the proposed rule with the Senate Commerce Committee, and then give some supporting offices that information as well. Over the last few weeks, we've had a number of members of Congress reach out to the FAA, tell them what issues we have with the proposed rule, and urge the FAA to make those changes. Many of the changes are what you see in the comments. AMA is also working on our official comments. We'll submit those when it gets a little closer to the deadline in March.
Now, and I think it's important to reemphasize, the Senate Commerce Committee, they asked us to come.
They did. Yeah, they did. They gave us a call and said, we hear you guys aren't happy with this proposed rule. We need you to come in and talk about it and tell us what you'd like to see change. So, which isn't uncommon. I mean, we have members of Congress reach out to us all the time.
It's not uncommon, but it's not something that we talk a lot about. And I think we probably should be talking more about how we are viewed as a leader within that space.
Yeah, we have members of Congress all the time reach out, and that's, a lot of that's what we do here at headquarters, but a huge portion of it's what our members are doing. They're reaching out to their representatives, their senators, and those offices are saying, hey, I got 50 emails today from your members. I need to have a list of all the clubs in that district, how many members are in my district, and what changes they'd like to see. So when we tell our members to reach out to their senators and representatives, that's not going unnoticed. Those offices are reaching out to us here at headquarters and asking for additional information. So you're right. That's information we should share. That's important information, and it does make changes happen. So.
Okay, so now you said that we've still got some time, obviously, for the comment period. The comment period is still open. Everybody needs to still submit their comments. Is there any update as far as the extension that we applied for?
So we did apply for an extension. I know a number of other organizations applied for an extension also. I've heard rumors that that's not going to be granted. The extension's not going to be. Those are just rumors.
Nothing
the
official
FAA is
yet.
supposed to stay quiet on the rulemaking process.
Gotcha.
So again, rumors out of D.C., but that's all they are right now.
Okay.
But we all need to submit comments like the period ends from the 60 days of when it was out, which I believe is March 2nd. So that's the deadline that we need to stay focused on moving forward.
And let me ask you this. There was something I mentioned a bit about it on this week's episode of the AMA podcast that came out on Monday. But now that I've got you in the studio, I would love for you to kind of clear this up for folks, because there's a lot of misinformation going on social media and on message boards and all of that sort of thing about the nature of the comments, if their comments are too similar to another one, that it won't get counted. What's the real story behind all of that?
So yeah, I've heard that too. Is if you have 1,000 of the same comments, that only counts as one comment. That's not the case. I actually sat down with 3 attorneys from the FAA and asked that very question. Here's the response I got is, if there is 1,000 of the same comments and the only thing that's different is the name that someone signs off in, that's still 1,000 comments that get submitted. It's going to be put into basically all of these comments are going to be separated based off of issues. They're going to go into a spreadsheet. Mm-hmm. All similar comments are going to get the same response.
Right.
There's still going to be 1,000 or 2,000 or however many comments were submitted. That's still the number that was submitted. This isn't a vote. It doesn't matter if we get 1,000 comments or 10,000 comments on one issue. It's just let the FAA know what issues you have with the proposed rule. That is false, that if there's 1,000 similar comments, it only counts as one. That's not the case. There's a Federal Register document on how to submit effective comments, and it mentions in there, comments that have more data, comments that are really focused. A lot of times those are better than a template type comment. But if you do submit the template comment, which we are urging people to use that as a template, just as guidance, not to, copy and paste. If you have specifics, that's great to add. Yeah. If you just copy and paste, that's still going to be counted as, your comment's going to be one. If your neighbor does the same one, it's going to be another one added to it. That's not true that 1,000 similar comments counts as one.
But right, and I think it's very important to get that out there. I don't know how that story started kind of creeping out there. Somebody started it somewhere, who knows who.
Yeah, and if they have documentation that says that from the federal government, I would love to see it. But again, 3 FAA attorneys, the Federal Register document we have, those things say otherwise. But
I think it's very, very, very important to point out that we're not asking you to cut and paste anything to cut and paste from this template and put it directly into the comment and hit send. That's not what we're asking anybody to do. We want you to use that as a guide to present your own arguments and your own case. But, for some of us, it's hard to kind of get that kind of thing started.
And that's the thing. I mean, I'm under no illusion. We have thousands of members that if it's more than copy and paste, they're not going to submit one.
Right.
If you're one of those people, we would rather you copy and paste it than to not submit one.
Right.
Again, we want everybody to customize it, but we understand there's a group out there that's only going to copy and paste, and that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So there's that. That's kind of the latest update as far as the NPRM is concerned. Again, stay tuned to all of our communication channels, and we'll keep you guys posted with any important updates. Are there any other important updates outside of the NPRM that people should know about?
So there are. We're working on these safety risk mitigation panels for our flying sites and controlled airspace. We've had 4 local ones. Those clubs requested, I believe, they all requested 600 feet. They all got 600 feet.
Mm-hmm.
They had to put some safety mitigations in play to be able to do that, but nothing really the club wasn't already doing. So, so where we're at right now with that process is we have 5 more that we're going to go through at the local level. Some of them are requesting altitudes much, much higher than the 600 feet. So these will be good test cases for those. We'll just have to work with the FAA and see where we land on those. After these 5 get done, there will be no more local SRMs. They will use a national policy that a group within the UAS industry and the FAA sit down and created through a national SRM panel.
Mm-hmm.
That was back about a month or so ago. It'll take the FAA a couple more months to get that national policy finalized, but once they do, then that will be the template on all of the other flying sites the AMA has across the country in controlled airspace. So this is only in controlled airspace. We're getting a lot of questions.
Right.
How do I get this done in uncontrolled airspace? Those discussions are taking place right now, but we're going to wrap up controlled airspace first. So we're going to end up basically with 9 local SRMs that are going to be completed, and then once those 9 are done, then they're going to be able to pretty much knock out. There was about 60 in total local clubs that requested to fly above 400 feet. Once these 9 get done and the national policy comes out, the other basically 50 will get knocked out relatively quickly. So.
Good. Well, of course, we'll keep you guys posted on that as well as the time goes on and those types of things go through. But that being said, Tyler, thank you so much again for coming in and taking a little bit of time out of your day that I know is just slammed with phone calls and emails and
I'd rather get. I know there's a lot of questions out there right now, so I'm happy to sit down and try to get those answered. And as we get more information, I'll come back and sit down with you, and we'll get that information out to our members. And
again, I know I've said it before. It goes without saying. It bears repeating. All of those cliches. We have got to come together and tackle this problem as a one whole unit. The segmentation stuff that's happening has got to stop. We've got to come together.
Sure.
That's all.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I'm in DC every other week or so. If you've got energy to spare, meet me there. Happy to walk the halls with you, and we'll try to educate Congress together.
There you go. Well, I want to thank you guys again for tuning in to this week's bonus episode of the AMA podcast. If you've been watching on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. If you've been listening through our traditional channels, thank you so much for listening. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, any of that kind of thing, send us an email at podcast@modelaircraft.org. Of course, if you want to learn more about the stuff going on with government relations, modelaircraft.org/gov. Go there, check that out. We've got those guides for you, those templates that you can use to help shape your comments, as well as learn about any updates that are happening on a daily basis. And for everybody here at the AMA, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you guys are here right back here next week on the AMA podcast.